Hello, this is Dr. Brandon. In this video, I'm going to be talking about medieval philosophy, and this set of slides here is just an introduction to kind of the medieval period and medieval philosophy, and we're really looking at it in what you might call Western civilization. So the civilization that was founded upon ancient Greece and and Rome, and that's really kind of what we're looking at here. And the medieval period lasts from roughly 500 in the Common Era or AD to 1500. So it begins with the end of the Western Roman Empire. That part of the Roman Empire is falling apart as the various um, tribes of people um, from the east come into to Italy and other areas in the Roman Empire. And so the Roman Empire is falling apart at this time, falling apart. And that kind of marks the end of the classical period and the beginning of the medieval period. And the medieval period lasts for roughly 1,000 years or so, till around 1500, when, due to a variety of technological and scientific and other discoveries, um, the Europeans uh, start to go out and conquer the rest of the world, basically. And they can change human civilization on a global scale. And that really marks the kind of end of the medieval period. Um, Really, kind of around the world, it comes to an end. And so, so by Western, I'm just looking at the kind of philosophy that's coming out of ancient Greece. That's really the focus here in this part. So that's all that I mean by that term there. And so for our purposes, what's really important is that these three really important religions, monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, all of them at various times are influenced by ancient Greek philosophy, especially during the medieval period. And so, what we're really going to be looking at here when we're talking about medieval philosophy is kind of the relationship between philosophy, represented by ancient Greek philosophy, um, and religion, represented by these three related monotheistic religions. And so, if we go to this slide, we'll see there's kind of three approaches to this relationship. And the first one might just say, look, if you want the truth can be found in religion. And so you don't really need philosophy, and it might lead people astray, right? It might have a corrupting influence, like Socrates was accused of. And so what should be done? Well, philosophy should be either be ignored or suppressed, right? And you can find this view in a variety of religions around the world. And you can certainly find it in the three, right, that we're looking at here: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Another approach, though, says something like this. It says, look, religion and philosophy are consistent because it's really about faith and reason, and maybe they lead to they're different paths, but to the same truth, to God or something like that. And so that's kind of a middle position. And then the third position basically says, well, it's reason that leads to truth, religion doesn't. And so religion will lead astray. And so you should focus on philosophy. Now, for obvious reasons, you wouldn't have seen this approach publicly stated much in the medieval period, so there are not going to be a lot of philosophers pushing that approach. You could find people pushing this approach now, of course. And so we kind of have these three rough approaches, and between to the relationship between religion and philosophy. And if you look at the next slide, we're going to be dealing mostly with approach number two. And one way to think about that approach, and this was done frequently during the medieval period, is to think of philosophy as a handmaiden of religion. It's supposed to help theology. It's a helper, so to speak. And you'll see we're going to read some authors that take this approach in one way or another, right? And so for these philosophers, reason, right, helps one get to the truth about God and divine things, right? And this was certainly the approach of St. Thomas Aquinas, who we are going to be reading a little bit of this week. However, there were philosophers that took approach number one, right? And an important one there is the Islamic philosopher Al Ghazali, or Islamic author, really, Al Ghazali. And he wrote a text called The Incoherence of the Philosophers. And he's basically saying, look, they don't make any sense. Don't follow them. Stick to your religious tradition. in his case, Islam. And he's saying that's the approach that you should take. But that text prompted a response by Averroes, a famous Islamic philosopher. And he wrote a book called The Incoherence of the Incoherence. And he's saying, no, 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 it's not philosophy that's incoherent. It's Al-Ghazali's book, The Incoherence of the Philosophers. That's what's incoherent. And what you can see from this is there is a very lively debate going on, not just within Islam, but within Christianity and Judaism at the time, right? A very lively debate about the proper relationship between reason and faith, between philosophy and religion during the medieval period.